I'm 26, and in the last 2 years, we've made well over, I'll just call it well over $2-3 million in just annual revenue sales wise within our companies that we operate. Past year alone has been over 1.5 mil just within the new companies that we've been able to build.
Amazing. Amazing, brother. What's the difference between a guy that's making 60 grand a year being a fitness trainer versus a guy that has an eight-figure coaching business online for fitness?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, great question. I think the biggest difference, there's a lot of things, obviously. I think the biggest difference is really, if I had to break it down simply, it's you don't know how to market effectively, you don't know how to sell effectively. That's the bottom line, right? And we can obviously go deep into those processes, right? But most people, they don't know who they're trying to speak to online, and they're just tossing shit out there and just talking to everyone possible, and they end up reaching no one, and they don't actually have proper process to take them into a sales process. And then if they do somehow get that person on the phone, or they do somehow get into a sales conversation, they have no clue what they're doing from like start to end. And as a result of that, they just end up broke and spinning their wheels years and years and years on end, right? And if you just master the two most important skills of marketing and sales, that's going to get you to seven figures. And then if you master leadership, that's going to get you from 7 to 8 and beyond.
Amazing. Okay. Okay, I hear you, man. So let's start at the very beginning. I mean, a guy's starting his business. The first thing he's got to do is find people to sell
Right.
to, right? So
Right.
he's start with the marketing, sales, outreach, all that good stuff. What's the start? What does that ad look like? What does the outreach look like? Do you recommend sending DMs? Do you recommend
Mm-hmm.
running ads? Where do
Mm-hmm.
people start?
Yeah. Well, the thing that I would say is you need to look at what do you have resources available at your disposal with, right? If you have cash laying around and you've got cash saved up and you're like, I just want to launch this bitch like from the ground up, then cool. Spend on marketing, and we can talk about what that looks like and everything, but you might as well spend to acquire leads, because at the end of the day, there's only two ways that you can get in front of people and acquire customers that you can actually control, right? There's spending time to acquire leads and spending money to acquire leads. Time being outreach processes and everything around manual work, and then money being actual paid advertising stuff, right? There's other methods like referrals, JV partnerships, content, obviously, if that goes viral, but none of those are controllable things in terms of input output. Those two things are. So if you're new and you're broke and you need to get a head start and make money, you're going to rely on spending time, which is going to come from manual outbound methods, right? Finding those people can just be as simple as understanding who is the person that you're actually trying to target and help in the first place, because you need to know who that person is. Once you know who that person is specifically with your ideal client avatar, you can then figure out where are they hanging out at, right? What accounts are they following on Instagram? What Facebook groups are they a part of? What groups in LinkedIn are they in? You actually can figure out the demographics and psychographics to understand where are those people hanging out, right? So then from there, you have a place to go to start intentionally reaching out. And it's going to start with your own audience. Obviously, it's going to start with the people in your own network, but then eventually that then branches out, and you know where to go and hunt for these prospects and everything, right? Then obviously when you get some cash, then you can start to reinvest into paid advertising and stuff. And now that you know your ICA, you know who you're trying to target, then it's just about leveraging effective operating scripts when it comes to paid advertising, and actually having good ad creatives to spend a little bit of money, put stuff out there, and as a result of that, be able to no longer spend time, but actually spend money to acquire those leads, right? And that now starts to become a scalable business because it's not dependent on you at the end of the day, right?
100%. Kevin, I would slow you down because you said a lot right there.
Yeah, yeah,
A lot of golden nuggets, brother. But okay, so if guys have zero money, we want you DM.
yeah.
Who are they DMing?
Yeah. Well, as far as DMing, right, and who they're DMing, I'm just going to put it plain and simple. Obviously you need to identify again who your ideal client is. But if we look at it in this way, right, you can either work with men or you can work with women. And then if you go deeper into that, then it's okay, what are the problems that that person is dealing with, right? Because obviously a college athlete is going to be completely different than a mom of 3 kids, which is going to be completely different than a career-driven professional that has no kids to begin with, right? If I just had to tell someone where to start from ground zero, work with women 10 out of 10 times to start. Because if you had to pick, they are an easier demographic to start with. They are easier to sell to, all things considered, just from the standpoint of, as guys, like, we tend to have an ego. We tend not to think that we need to get help around this stuff and everything. Women tend to care more about their looks, their appearance, there's self-consciousness around these things, all of that, right? And just from my experience and even experience just like on the gym floors and stuff, women are always going to be an easier market to sell to build from the ground up, unless you somehow for some reason have this huge audience of like bros and guys that are like following you. Cool, but it's always going to be way easier to start with women, like 10 out of 10 times. So I would start there, and then I would look at specifically who is it that you want to serve. It is probably going to either be A, someone similar to yourself, if you are a woman watching this somehow, or B, it is going to be someone in your life, that can be relevant to your ideal client, right? Maybe Aunt Sally who like has like 3 kids, and it's like, cool, that's like the type of person I want to attract or like market to, right? Or it is the ex-athlete because you come from that background. But you just need to pick one person and just go all in on that, because now that gives you a very clear identity and area to target your outreach, right? Because otherwise you're just spraying things all over the place and you're not going to actually know where you're trying to go to begin with, right? And that isn't scalable.
100%. Okay, that makes sense. And for that first DM outreach, what does that look like?
Yeah. It depends on how the conversation's starting. Let's say you're just reaching out to people in different Facebook groups, through different hashtags, through different groups, right? On whether it's LinkedIn, etc. Most of the time, it's probably going to start with something personal, right? Because you're not going to just do a cold outreach being like, hey, I'm a fitness coach. Can I help you get in shape? It's never going to land, right? And the number one mistake people make with outreach is they try to go for the close, right? They try to go for the set of booking the call way too quick without actually taking their time in the conversation to build rapport, right? It'd be like if I was walking on the streets of Miami and walking up to a girl and just immediately trying to ask her out on a date, or just immediately try to ask her to like marry me right on the spot, right? Never going to work. I'd look crazy. So maybe hey, some 304s might.
Listen, man, a dude that looks like you, I think you got a shot.
The presence brand, that's a whole other thing. We can get to that, right? But with normal outreach, you're gonna have to build some rapport. You're gonna have to have some build up before you actually set the date, right? Before you actually set the call. So for most outreach, it's gonna have to start with something personal. The biggest thing that I find is the easiest conversation starter is to literally just either ask them about something that is on their profile that's relevant, that you actually find interesting, or B, if there is nothing there, to just ask about how they like where they're from, and or the area, or something related to their career that you've spotted on their bio or something. That's like the easiest place, because from there you can then transition through a conversational framework, right? And for everyone listening to this, just to give you a really quick way to just entertain any conversation, it's always going to start from something personal. You're then most likely going to navigate from that into asking them about their career, because that's an easy transition, right? It's like, oh, like, love the area of Florida that you're in, blah, blah, blah. I was just there myself. Oh, cool. What do you do for work down there? They're going to answer, oh, great. Does that keep you busy? Everyone's going to say yes, obviously, because everyone wants to look like they're someone that stays busy. Once they answer that, that gives you a nice little segue to then take that right into fitness, right? Oh, like, that makes sense. Like, does that make it hard to blank? And then you can fit in the thing related to fitness you want to segue into, right? Oh, does that make it hard to take time for yourself and self-care and everything? I know when I get busy in work, like, that does so for myself too. Like, do you ever find that like it's a struggle to even like get active during the day? Oh yeah, it is. Oh, tell me more about that. Now you're right into a fitness conversation, where now through that outreach process, you can then diagnose the 3 things you need to, which are their goals, their struggles, and what they've tried before. And it's a very easy, organic segue into asking those 3 things. And that's what you need to then be able to transition into pitching and setting the call, and then moving on from there, right? And it pretty much works most times.
Okay, interesting. And it's interesting you take that approach, because the approach that I've seen work the most for a lot of other people is just very hard, very fast qualifying questions. Hey, I mean, for some people, it could be, are you a business owner with a sales team?
Yeah.
Are you a business owner that's having financial trouble? Are you a person that has, needs help losing weight right now? It's just very hard, fast questions. Are you at your fitness goals right now? Reach your fitness potential.
Yeah.
Doing all the rapport building before, do you think that's worth time investment?
I think it's a balance between it is, and I think it's a balance between making sure you're building enough, but not taking overly too long, because that's the other mistake I see, is they take way too long in that rapport, right? Notice in the example I gave of personal about where they're from or something on their profile to what they do for work, Does it keep them busy? That's 3 questions right there, right before you get into fitness, right? You don't want to like extend it way more than that. And I do think there's a difference in B2C, business to consumer, right? Or customer versus B2B, business to business. I do think there's a difference there. And with fitness and a B2C company, you're going to need to take a little more rapport building time for most conversations. Now, it's a different story if we're talking about advertising, right? If you're running direct response ads and stuff, yeah, you can be a little more direct once someone inquires in, right? Because it's for a purpose. But if you're doing outreach and everything, in my opinion and from my experience, a little bit of rapport in the beginning to segue in does go a long way. And then it takes you less outreach attempts to get these set calls that you need to versus just blasting hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of DMs out there to finally set some calls.
Perfect. Okay. So let's say a guy's been doing that for a couple of months now. He's built up some clientele, all that good stuff. Now from there, when does he decide, okay, I've done well here, I'm going to keep doing this, or when do I start running ads?
Yeah, I would say once you validated your offer and your ideal client, so you know exactly who you're trying to sell to, and you know exactly the unique angle you're taking and how you're selling to them, right? In B2B circles, that's your unique selling proposition. We just call it your unique mechanism, right? What's the unique edge that you have termed of how you proprietarily get people results? Once you've solidified that, and I would say from an income standpoint, generally you're doing at least around 10K a month in terms of revenue organically at that point, which is very easy to do organic without doing paid traffic and stuff. At that point, you have the cash to be able to reinvest effectively into advertising. And more importantly, you've validated your offer and your ideal client so that when you do get into advertising, it's not going to flop, right? Because a lot of people get into it way too early and they haven't validated those things. And if you have a shit offer, it's never going to land from paid advertising. If it never landed organically, it's never going to land paid. It's all the same people at the end of the day that's viewing it. So you need to validate those processes.
100%. Okay. Okay. And what does that first ad say?
Yeah. Usually the way I like to teach advertising is you can split it between, to keep it very simple, direct ads and indirect ads. So direct ads being, it's a very direct call out, right? We can term this as like the Five Guys call out, for example, where it's like, hey, I'm looking for, 5 career driven moms that are busy with work and their kids that want to tone up, lose 10 plus pounds and regain their energy back, all without, skipping their favorite foods and their time with their kids. Just DM me the keyword blank, right? Super direct call out specific to who you want. It's a very easy post you can put up and run advertising campaigns too. That's one style, right? Works really well. If you have the cash to spend, it gets the immediate type of lead you want in if you're doing your targeting correctly. And then you can just have a very easy, no bullshit, strings attached convo from there to get them onto a call, right? Otherwise, there's indirect ads, which we can get into. That's just simply anything that's not a direct, right? That would be you running ads to like a lead magnet or a funnel in that way, right? Or a top of funnel follower ad or something like that. For the beginner, if you have cash to spend, I would recommend just doing direct ads. It's like the simplest, easiest thing to do. If you don't have a ton of ad spend to be able to utilize, aka you're not at like 10K months at least or beyond, then I would say to take more of the indirect approach and just run like top of funnel, what we call follow me style ads or lead magnet ads, because they have a lower lead cost and you'll be able to get more volume that way, right? They're not as intent based, but you can get more volume through them.
What do those leads cost? What do the direct leads cost?
Direct lead costs, you're looking at anywhere usually between, I would say on average, $8 to $13 cost per lead, all things considered, right? It can sometimes range a little higher to 10 to 15, but I would say $10 is like your average cost per lead that you're aiming for there for direct lead costs. If you're running indirect ads, you can find them anywhere to be between, to be honest, I've seen on the low end, literally $1 or slightly less to, $5 leads on like the higher end for indirect type of ad.
Wow. Interesting. Okay, what's the ROI on those leads? Obviously, you need to have an amazing sales process, but I mean, on average, what are the ROIs?
Yeah, I mean, for a lot of the companies that I and we work with, we've seen collected and even we've seen both collected and contracted ROAS to be very easily above 10x, like time and time and time again on both of those ad styles. I would say for pretty much all the companies that I work with, to be honest, that's our standard, right? Our KPI is we're hitting at least 4x return on ad spend on collected and 6x or 5x actually return on ad spend for contracted. But most of the companies we all work with, they're hitting at least like 8 to 10x on collected and contracted.
I'm sorry, what, so you mean collected and contracted? So total contract value versus
Yeah, total contract value versus like cash on hand, like what you collect from the sale right then and there.
Got it. Got it. Okay. And are these lead forms happening on Facebook, Instagram itself, or are you guys sending them to a landing page?
If it's a direct ad, it is happening on Facebook and Instagram itself, right? Slash, we're just sending them straight to DM. So they can just click the ad, right? And it'll take them straight to the inbox to message the keyword that's on the direct ad. And then we just take it from there. If it's a indirect lead magnet funnel, then it'll take them to landing page to opt in, right? And then we'll go from there.
Got it. Okay.
Okay, and if it is an indirect, right, and you take them to a landing page, how do you set up your landing page, or what kind of advice do you have for them?
Yeah, usually I would say it's like a split between, we have like a bunch of companies that use ClickFunnels, obviously, and we'll just do a classic landing page template. We also use Go High Level for a lot of our clients that we work with. So we'll be able to just like integrate a landing page right in there. Super simple, right? Like headline, sub headline, opt in with like image of like the book or the thing they're getting, name, email, phone number, submit. And then it takes them to thank you page where there's like a quick little video that goes through the coaching process and how they get clients results within the CTA to book a call and a button to do that. So we can take advantage of like the 2 to 3% of people that come through that are ready right then and there, and they can book straight onto calendar.
Okay, 2 to 3%. So that those are the numbers that come from the indirect ads.
2 to 3% that from when they click on the ad, they are in a buying state, they're ready to take an action and they are ready to book a call and purchase right there. 2 to 3% of all the leads that come through, like they'll be ready to go and like want to hand you your credit card, right? Which is why we have that on the thank you page for those, because we want to just take advantage of that. You'll have more people book calls, but I'm just saying 2 to 3% of them are they're ready to hand you their credit card right there and they'll most likely buy.
Got it. Okay. So a lead comes in.
Mhm.
I actually before that, what is on the lead form? Is it email, phone number, Instagram handle? What are you guys usually getting?
We won't even on it. Like, I mean, if we are going to run lead form ads, like we're just doing name, email, phone number, or sometimes name, email, IG handle, and phone number. But honestly, with direct ads, especially most of the time, we're just having it go direct straight to DM right from there. Right. So we're not even doing like a lead form technically on the page itself. They just click on the ad. It takes them straight to the coach's inbox to message them the keyword, say like the keyword was like toad. It's like they just click the button, takes them right to the inbox, DM the word toned. Coach takes over from there. We'll have like GHL, for example, send an automated message being like, hey, thanks for your interest. Mind if I ask you a quick 2 questions just to make sure you're a good fit? Yep, cool. Direct. What's your problem? What's your goal? Great. Set up a call, right? Super simple.
Okay. Okay. So I once a hot lead comes in, what's the conversion rate from lead to booking a call, and what is that script? Because that's a very debated topic, is what people are actually talking, what people are actually saying to get them onto the call, even if it's a hot lead. Because we all know if we're in sales, I mean, leads are not created equally. There's some leads that are amazing. Some people are just ready to give you that Amex, and some people are going to wait.
Right.
So I mean, what are you guys saying, and what is that conversion from lead to call?
Yeah, usually the conversion we notice from lead to call is right around 8 to 10%. That's like our KPI that we have all our companies try and hit because that's our gold standard of any lead that comes in to call that gets booked. As far as like what happens in between, right? Like you say, to that messenger conversation, if it's from a direct ad in this case, like we're talking right now, we keep it to actually what you were saying earlier. It's very straight shooter to the point and simple. It's just, hey, thanks for your interest. Can I ask you 2 to 3 quick questions just to make sure this program would be a good fit? Because you're inquiring about the program. That's why they clicked on the app. So it's like, yeah, of course. Awesome. What's like your main goal? Like, what are you trying to get towards? This. Okay, great. What's like the problem that you're dealing with? This. Okay, great. And what have you tried before? Oh, I've done XYZ. Cool. Got it. Well, I think we can definitely help you with that. Would you be against us setting up a quick complimentary strategy call where we can dive into more depth with giving you information around how our program and our XYZ method works to help you solve blank? Yes, great. And then we just pitch them 2 times and get them on the calendar. And that's the whole process. Super simple.
Okay, cool. And how soon are you trying to, do you guys do same day appointments?
If the company has the ability due to their setter and closer bandwidth to do same day appointments, then we will. If not, then we'll do it at least within 24-hour booking, right? We never book more than 48 hours out ever. It's always within that time span.
Amazing. Okay, okay. Yeah, that's so huge, bro.
Yeah.
After 2 days, if they've slept, dude, if they go to bed, the deal's already 50%.
Oh yeah. Dead. Oh yeah. No, like that's the biggest mistake I often see. It's like we'll have a coach that's working with us and be like, "Oh, my show up rates suck," and I'm like, "Oh, well, how long are you booking the calls out for?" "Oh, they'll book in like 4 or 5 days later." I'm like, "That's your issue." Like, of course they're not going to show up to the call. Like they've slept on it for multiple days, and now they're like, I'm okay being overweight. It's kind of whatever. It's like, of course they're not going to show up, right? So no, that's why it's like so important. It's like never book more than 48 hours out. If we can triage them the same day, 100% we will every single time, like right then and there.
Dude, yeah. Something I've been doing recently is if I get a lead, I'll try to put them on the call like that minute.
Oh,
like,
absolutely.
I'll go to Zoom right now. I'm gonna get you a meeting ID. Because like, dude, I can't. I mean, like as soon as again, like every second in between their interest and the appointment is just time for that to fade.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that's the thing I didn't throw in is like if we have like if the lead is primed and ready right then and there through that conversation, we'll offer, hey, like, are you free right now to hop on real quick? And then we'll just treat that as a triage, right? Quick 10, 15 minutes, just like qualify them and then toss them on the setter's calendar from there, right?
Yeah, 100%. Okay, cool, man. So what happens in between the set and the appointment? What's your guys' like, what are your systems and processes to get them to actually show up?
Right. So obviously, with most coaches that we work with, we'll typically teach 2-call close, right? In terms of a triage call, which is like short 10, 15-minute connecting call, then the actual strategy or sales call, right? Which is the actual selling call. With the triage calls, like we were just talking about, we'll usually try and book them right then and there. If not, we'll do it within the next day. And if it does have to be within the next day for that triage call, we'll simply just have automated reminders, usually like 2 to 3 reminders that are sent out, plus like a little bit of info before the call in terms of like a free video or sales asset or training of some sort, just to give them more guidance on whatever problem they said in the DM. Once they hop on the triage, we've qualified them, we set them on the sales call. Cool, that's great. In between, that's where the extremely important part of the sales process comes into play. So we'll make sure on top of the automated reminders that we have Go High Level or whatever CRM sending out, we'll have them complete a application ahead of time right before, and we'll literally tell them on the call, right? When we're doing that triage call, we'll tell them after we set the sales call, hey, before we hop off, quick favor, I want you to take 2 minutes and just fill out this quick form. It's going to just give our XYZ specialists all the information that they need in order to just give you proper guidance on everything that we talked about today. You think you can take 2 minutes to complete that? Yes. Okay, cool. We'll text it right there. When they hop off, we'll then also have the setter and or the closer. I'm usually in like a 3-way chat, text a VSL or video sales letter all around the coaching process and how we get results. So it's like, hey, super excited to be talking with you tomorrow. By the way, know this might be a tall order, but I would love if you could take 10 minutes of your time to just watch this quick training. It's from our CEO, John, and it's going to give you all the information required to specifically hit your goal of blank. I know it might be a tall order to take a listen and watch through of that before a call, but I promise it's going to be gold. Do you think you can do that for me? Yes. Awesome. See you then. So then they are nurtured even more before they actually hop on the call, and they have more buy-in before they actually hop on that closing call, right? Then lastly, the night before their call, we'll have the closer send a personal video message of them talking about how excited they are to hop on the call and talk through everything with them, and just a couple reminders. And we'll always have them text it personally from their iPhone. We will never have it sent through CRM or anything, because it is way more likely for the prospect to open it that way, right? On like iMessage versus anything there. So we'll have the closer text that out. They'll confirm that they've listened to it and read it. Awesome. Those are all the reminders and the sales assets. before the sales call. So at that point, they're qualified, they're nurtured, all the things are there. They're way more likely to show up.
Perfect. One cool thing, I'm not sure if you guys are currently doing, we do this is when the setter and closer throw out that group chat. Well, if it's a three-way chat, now on iPhone, you can put a background image.
Oh,
yeah. As like the profile. So you could put that person's face and you could Photoshop them onto like a fit body or something like
that. That's good. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, just like little stuff here and there, but like all that little stuff that adds up.
Yeah, for sure. I love that.
Really interesting. Okay, so that's your process is really dialed in. Okay, and all right, so now they've went through that first call. Now we get to the closing call. On the closing call, what's like? Let's hear the entire process. Intro. Are you guys doing any more qualifying on the closing call?
We'll go through a discovery and everything where we're asking them some questions, before we actually get into the pitch.
Okay. So you're still doing a little bit more of that. Okay. And then you get into the pitch and then you'll close. So let's hear that entire script.
So from the start, we'll intro, open the call, just detail exactly what a strong pre-frame, the purpose of being here, right? I won't go through the whole thing, but we're basically just being like, hey, John, like super excited for us to be here. Let me walk you through a little bit of what the call is going to be. We'll just like detail out exactly what's going to happen on the call, get them to agree. They say yes. Awesome. We started discovery now. With the discovery, I always like to teach it very simply as like 7 main questions that we're asking to get the further qualifications that we need. So it's very important we do that because we want to make sure we're going into the depth from a problem standpoint. We need to uncover the pain and create that gap that's needed to then be closed through the presentation, right? To highlight our solution. So during that discovery, we're asking 7 main questions typically, right? Those being, and it's not going to be asked like this, but this is how I'll teach it to simply remember it. What's the goal, right? So like what are they actually here for in the first place? What's the pain? What's the problem that they're actually dealing with? We'll go deeper into that than it was on the triage. What's the cost, right? So what's the cost of an action? Hey, I almost hate to ask you this, but let's say we don't move forward today and you don't take an action on anything that we're talking about here. What's life going to look like in, next 2-3 years from now, right? Get them to actually sit into that gap more of the pain that they're currently in. Then 3 why questions, which are why now, why you, and why me. So why now, obviously, why is this important right now that you're doing this? Helps to anchor extrinsic urgency. Why is it important that you want to do this? Anchors intrinsic urgency. Why me? There's a lot of other coaches out there. You can Google diets and trainers. There's like a million results that pop up on Google. Why do you want to work with me on this right now? To help eliminate any competition objections before they actually come up. And then finally, a doubt-based question, just to help seed the need for the program of, hey, you seem like a really smart guy, you seem like a really smart girl, because I'm just curious, what's kept you from being able to solve this on your own at this point? Well, now they have to admit that they can't solve it on their own, which eliminates I think I'm going to try this on my own for a little bit longer when we get to the close, because we've eliminated that already before we got there. Right? We'll ask all those questions in discovery. Then we'll move into the presentation or the pitch, where we just have 3 main pillars of the program that we dive into. Usually we'll just term it around training, nutrition, and accountability. We'll have the coach attach proprietary names on each of them, so it doesn't just sound like training, nutrition, and accountability, and there's actually a special name to it, like our flexible dieting matrix, our blah, blah, blah training solution, and our 360 accountability system, right? They'll go through a presentation on each one of those main pillars. We'll then tie them down even more, make sure they're feeling confident about the program and how it can help them, and then we're right into the price drop in the pitch at that point.
What are the main objections that you are actually facing on the calls?
Usually it's like 3 main things, right? It's usually a combination of money, right? Like this is just way too much. It's outside my budget. Uncertainty of some level, right? They're afraid of taking an action. Usually it's due to fear or a lack of alignment in the program or lack of alignment in themselves. And then spousal, right? Especially when we're marketing to women, a lot of times I need to talk to my husband. I need to talk to him how to support, yada, yada, yada. Like
nowadays, it's husbands got to talk to their wives. In today's America, every single husband, I gotta talk about.
In today's America, 100%.
Yeah, she's got my nuts just strangled.
But yeah, those are the main 3 for sure. So like with all our coaches, like we just have main scripts that we go through for like each one of those that are like super detailed through, especially the spousal stuff. I would say like I'd say the spousal is like number 1, followed by price, followed by uncertainty, and it almost always with even both those things, like it always comes down to uncertainty at the end of the day. Like once you diffuse all of that out of the way, it's just their own underlying fear of taking an action.
Uncertainty in what? Uncertainty in themselves?
Yeah, usually it's uncertain, right? Because when it comes to those objections and you dig into the surface and the root, it's usually two things. It's uncertainty or lack of alignment in the program, being able to actually help them get where they want to be, or lack of uncertainty or belief in themselves, being able to commit to that. If the closer did their job properly on the whole call and everything, it's usually not the lack of belief in the program, and it's usually the lack of belief and trust in themselves to actually be able to commit to the program in the first place. If the closer did their job properly. If they didn't do their job properly, then it's probably a mixture of both, because there were some things that weren't uncovered that needed to be uncovered.
100%. 100%.
I think something you said that was really key was getting them to admit it for themselves, right?
Yeah.
So I think a lot of issues with closers that they make is they're kind of telling them, hey, you should do this. This would work out well for you. When you're getting them to admit it, they feel like they have the control in the situation. And people definitely respond favorably to that.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. Right. They need to feel like it's their own idea for them to actually believe it in the first place.
Yeah. Yeah. They're not going to take action on you bullying them into doing something.
Never. Yeah. Never.
You're just going to piss them off. As soon as you disagree with the customer, they're out.
Yeah. 100%.
Kevin, so far we've taken a guy from someone that has making about 60 grand a year, training his friends and family, gyms, all that stuff, to shooting DMs out, to scaling ads, to what to do with those ads up until at this point, they're probably making a good amount of money, but they're probably leaving a ton on the table if they're not following up. So they say that 80% of deals are closed in the follow-up. So what is your process for following up after that second call, after that closing call, and they didn't buy it?
Yeah, great question. So it obviously depends on the objection. One of the things that we actually do, and I actually got this from a mentor of mine, Ravi, he calls it the red zone request. And one thing that we'll do is as soon as the deal doesn't close, obviously goal, depending on the objection, is to always schedule a follow-up call as much as possible, especially if it's spousal or uncertainty. We'll always schedule a follow-up, even if it's price or financial. We'll try to then reach back out and schedule a follow-up using what we call a reoffer script, where we just reach out to them and just tell them, hey, had some thoughts from our last call. I know blank was the main objection. Finance was the main objection, keeping you from actually moving forward today. Would you be against exploring potentially an option to be able to get you into the program for less money down overall so we can continue working towards XYZ goal? Most people are like, yeah, absolutely. Cool. We set the call. No matter what, we always get the follow-up call on the schedule. So then what we do in between is we do one thing called the red zone request, which I got from Robbie, which that basically is where we have the closer submit a form that has the prospect's name, what their main goal and struggle was, and what the main objection was. They'll submit a form, and then the CEO or head coach will then take 2 minutes out of their day and just record a quick loom, basically rehashing the exact same thing the closer said, but just overviewing what those main things were. And it will always hit different coming from them, obviously, compared to the closer, because there is going to be more trust there just instinctually, right? So then the CEO or the head coach will record that Loom video, send it to the closer to then send to the prospect between that follow-up. And on top of that, we will then also tag or send the prospect a testimonial, usually that's relevant and specific to them themselves and who they are as a person, right? So like if they're a mom, we'll send them a testimonial from a mom, right? And so and such. So we either tag them on one or send them one. And then in addition to that, if needed, we'll then also send them a valuable resource or training or something that's like relevant to like one of the struggles that they gave us. And we'll do that between that initial call and the follow-up. Now, we won't do all three of those all the time. It depends on the length of follow-up and how long it is in between, ideally shorter, better, right? We will always do the red zone request, and we will always do the testimonial tagging. The freebie lead magnet is optional if it's a lengthier time period in between, but that usually exponentially increases our chances of closing on that follow-up call every single time we do have it.
Got it. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. All right, and how, like, what's the process like? Okay, first day, second day, third day, and how long are you guys following up for?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah.
Yeah. So until we get a call back on the schedule, we will always do a short-term follow-up cycle and then a long-term follow-up cycle. So the short-term cycle is usually a 5-day cycle. It's like 24 hours for the first message, 48 hours on the second and third, then 72 on the fourth, and then 72 on the fifth. That's usually our sequence for short-term there. And it depends on the prospect, but typically for that short-term cycle, it will usually be just first message being like, hey, I know last time we talked, we were talking about XYZ, wanted to see what your thoughts are about moving forward in the program, blah, blah, blah. If there's still no response or we're unable to set the call, we'll make follow-up 2, usually like the reoffer, like I was saying earlier. If we still don't get them back on the phone, we'll make follow-up 3, some sort of either like personal meme or GIF or something like that, just like pattern interrupt and get their attention again. If we still don't hear anything, we'll then send a 4th follow-up, asking a no-based question to try and get a yes, right? So that might be something like, hey, name, like I take it you're no longer trying to blank whatever their main goal was. Usually gets them to respond back, and then we can entertain a conversation from there and try to set the call again. If we still don't get anything, and or they just ghost us, then we'll send a 5th final short-term follow-up, and I just call it the ghosting line, where you just act on the law of reciprocity, where you're saying, hey, name, like getting a little worried about you. You seemed really excited to get towards working on XYZ goal when we last talked. It really struck me as the type of person to ghost. Is everything all right? Let me know. I'm getting a little worried about you, which now hits on their emotions, and people never like to be called out and stuff like that indirectly. So it makes them more likely to be like, no, I'm not actually ghosting you. Like, this is what's actually happening. And we can then entertain a conversation from there. If we still aren't able to set the call or nothing happens in those 5 short-term follow-ups, then we just move them to a long-term cycle where we'll check in.
Hold on, Kevin. I don't want to cut you off, brother, but I do want to stay on that a little bit. Okay, where'd you learn? Where'd you learn that line? That line is pretty great. And can you repeat it one time? I want to hear that line.
So that ghosting line is a last follow-up we'll send as like a Hail Mary at the end of our short-term cycle. And it basically goes like this, hey, name, getting a little worried about you. You don't really strike me as the type of person to ghost. Is everything all right? You seemed really excited when we were last talking about getting started on XYZ. Just want to make sure everything is okay. Please let me know. And
Holy
that's
shit,
right.
Bro.
So
yeah, that's getting implemented like tonight.
I have a few texts to send right after this.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah.
God. Okay.
No, so like that. So I first learned a variation of that through a previous mentor of mine. And then I kind of spun it around and added some components to that to flush it out. And then that becomes our key ghosting line that we use every single time. And it works like a charm. 9 out of 10 times, you always get them to respond back, because people never like to be known as that person. So they will always respond back every single time.
Amazing, man. Okay. Yeah, that's huge. Okay. And so those 5 follow-up messages, I'm not sure if I caught it. What you're saying this is within 3 days, 4 days?
Oh, yeah. So like with the 5 follow-ups, we'll space them out. So usually the first 2 are within 24 hours. The second 2 are within 48 hours each. And then the last one is 72 hours later, right? And that's like the ghosting line then.
Okay, for sure. And then after that, do you guys have a rehash team? Have you guys ever implemented that, or is it
after the short-term cycle, we'll just place them into a pipeline for long-term follow-up from there, where the closers and or setter will reach out to them within a 2-week time span, a 2-month time span after that. And then if nothing then happens, if it's a really good lead, the closer will kind of put them in their own pipeline to follow up with on like a every few month basis or so. Otherwise, they just go into our general pipeline. So with like marketing messages and promos and things like that, they'll always get blasted with that. But that's the extent of what we'll do for long term there.
Got it. Dude, that's a really solid plan. And how are you guys managing that? Because that's a lot of steps that you guys use every single, prospect. I mean, what CRM are you guys using?
Go high level for most things. So we'll just have everything integrated and go high level. We'll have pipelines set up for each stage of that process that each closer has, and then setter as well. And then we'll tag the leads, right, based on their proximity to us and like where they're at in the pipeline. So it becomes a very clear. They're able to go in, they see all the leads that are in this pipeline. Cool. They can just hit them up automatically. And we also have some automations with some parts of the process that work in our favor with Go High Level that we can integrate in. So it helps to speed up the process a bit, but it's a pretty clean system, all things considered.
Dude, I mean, with your systems, I see no reason that, I mean, this is just gonna fucking explode. Excuse my French, but this is about to take off, man. So many people need this stuff and nobody's doing this. Nobody.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
It's bro, it's embarrassing. Even like the biggest names in the game don't have systems anywhere near this. A lead comes in, they might call it once, and if they don't answer, that's a wrap.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, and that's why like the biggest thing, that's why like with the scaling that we do at info processing stuff, it's like that's why sales, like we were talking about even before we started recording, like that's like the number one thing that I just focus on. Cause like you said, most of these big companies, even they have none of these processes at all. So if we can just come in and like make these few millimeter dial shifts on all these different areas, that just explodes their revenue like no other, without us doing anything different with like traffic or marketing or anything of that nature. We just fix the sales process, that cleans everything up.
100%, 100%. And so if somebody's out there watching this, they have their fitness coaching business, how do they get to you so that you can get in there and start increasing those sales?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you're running a fitness coaching company of any kind, even if you're starting from $0 to you're already making your first 7 figures within fitness, you can just reach out to me on my IG handle, dockevfit. And then you can just reach out, be like, hey, I listened to the Sales Bro podcast, love what you're talking about, blah, blah, blah. We can just have a conversation from there. If you want to just check out more of what we do directly, you can go to our business Instagram, which is Impact Fitness Coaching Academy on Instagram. And from there, you can just see a little more on our page with like everything that we do and just inquire from there.
Awesome. All right, cool, brother. Well, thanks again. I appreciate you coming.
Of course.
Take care, man. We'll be in touch.
Yeah, of course. Thanks, guys.
All right, brother.